It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Welcome to Thursday, kids. Gary?
Apocalypse Thursday.
It is Apocalypse Thursday. I mean, they were sounding the whistles. I didn't know what the national security threat was. At first, we didn't know. Now, apparently, it's Russia. And
With a plan.
So it's not an imminent threat. But my thought would be, okay, when it's an imminent threat, won't it be too late? Game over? You know, the movie War Games.
Well, what I thought was the most interesting thing in that story, because I can guarantee, you know, you can look at the House Intelligence Committee and the things that China is planning on doing and Russia's planning on doing. Mm-hmm. And if the average person read it, or you had the media decipher it in a particular way, you could have everybody completely and totally paranoid.
In fact, I have a couple of people that I know that are in Intel. One's been doing it for a long time. The other one only 5 or 6 years. And I kind of posed that question to them. I said, I know there's obviously things you can't share with me, but if you were able to share, if the American public got a briefing every day, and they both said, there's no way. Everybody in the world would be paranoid, and there's no way. It would be nothing but chaos. Nobody would leave their home.
I once had a great conversation with an FBI agent who worked in counterterrorism on the U.S.-Canadian border. And he said, oh, man, if you knew the stories I knew.
Right.
He said, because you just.
And you would think that border mundane unless you actually think about it, or like you grew up near it. You know, you understand that, well, wait a minute, it's the U.S. border. It's also the Canadian border. And so there are threats coming and going all the time. There are, you know, I mean, my gosh, we don't even need to talk about the southern border in that regard.
And this goes back before, I believe, 9/11 when I had the conversation with him.
So no passport necessary?
There was no passport necessary at that point, but he was talking more about the ability of terrorists to get across, whether it's even at the regular checkpoints or not. But I mean, you think of the border now, and you just wonder, you know, you probably have intelligence about what's going on at the border that, if it became publicized, would force the president to shut it down. If you had it, you know, if you had, let's say, a congressional hearing and you had all the FBI agents go, what are the threats we're facing?
Right.
But again, we live in a country where we don't worry about the threats until we are attacked. I mean, the history of this country, especially when you look at Pearl Harbor, when you look at 9/11, when you to go through 9/11 and then have the open border that we have now is really an amazing evolution in a society that goes to the point, and we saw it with COVID. They can't prove things, yet they go to the point of locking down an entire population and shutting down a country, and then come back a few years later and go, oops.
Yeah.
You know, look at it, and you see that the vast majority of what we were told during COVID was not only inaccurate, but when they knew it was inaccurate, they still pushed a lie.
Yeah.
You know, I have no problem of initially the concern of when, for example, COVID hit. But the fact is, we go through something like that, we see that the government was completely inept, and it really doesn't affect people that much.
Right.
In how they vote.
Right, yeah.
You know, it's sort of like, well, you know, that's something that happened back then, and it's not it's not going to happen again. And they were just, these people were just, well, it wasn't just that they were concerned because they lied.
Yeah.
They consistently lied to the American people. And it seemed as if, a significant portion of the American public is okay with it. I mean, Dad did tell me, though, didn't he? Dad did say, look, you're going to find out that people really want to be BS'd in life. They want to be lied to.
Well,
and I remember telling my father, no, you're wrong on that. People want the truth. He goes, no, they don't. You're going to find out that they don't. And as I've grown up, he was right. Yeah. People want to be BS'd.
Well, and that's a prime example because it also helps to fit a personal narrative, doesn't it? When they say, well, listen, you're going to have to work from home, and some of you are going to have to get some government money, which just may or may not be more than you're making right now on your real job. And then people are going, oh, yeah, no, COVID. So there are plenty of people that were willing to go, yeah, no, I'm going to hang out here at the house, drink. And that, look, the poll showed 50%. Here's the thing. If the poll shows 50%, the other 50% were lying. If 50% were going, oh, yeah.
Well, no, they were not. You're wrong. You're wrong. The other 50% was getting high.
Yeah, while they were drinking. Here, hold my beer while I grab this edible. Here's the thing, though, is that, so when everything started breaking on this Russian threat, I'm thinking, okay. Because you can't really trust anything of the level of where it is. Yeah, exactly. Are we at red alert? Or you know what it is? It's War Games. It's the movie. Because it went after COVID, and knowing how they're willing to overinflate anything and everything. You have no idea, because at the end of it, it sounded like an imminent threat when it was breaking. We didn't know what it was. Well, now it's plans. Okay. But then half of me says, well, all right, plans as in, crazy Putin and his mind going, this is what I'm going to do. And really it's not going to come to anything. Or plans like, yeah, we believe within, 30, 90 days, it's going to be in play, and by that time, we're all doomed. And we don't know. Or was it ever really a threat, and all of a sudden it's being presented in a, wag the dog, scenario in the 2024 election season, and Biden's going to try and be the hero by, well, we're going to address this right away. And we're going to put these measures into place, and we're going to blah, 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 blah. There's no way to know. There's no way to know. Because one thing for sure is this Gang of Eight meeting that's going to happen later today now, Thursday, is not going to be, we're not going to learn anything from it. Now, they're calling for president to declassify this information. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And the number one reason, the first reason it's not going to happen is because a Republican asked him to do it.
Well, the reason I was going, because I was like, when you were saying that, is that's the exact same thing that I was exposed to yesterday. It's the biggest thing that I got out of this entire national security threat is when the government consistently lies to the public doesn't believe anything, because the first thing that came, the first thing that you go to social media and everybody's what is this? If it's an imminent threat, or could be an imminent threat, we're talking about, and with some good points, we're talking about the fact that Russia has put missiles in Venezuela.
Yeah. Right.
Or in Cuba.
Right.
And we haven't been paying attention.
We were just mentioning the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Right.
You mentioned that, just a couple of days ago.
Just the other day, yeah. I'm old
here
enough
we
to
go
remember
again.
it. I'm an old man.
Yeah.
And so it's like, whoa, that's serious stuff, because that takes the reaction time of the United States down not to 15 minutes, but probably you're cutting that in half as to when a missile could strike the United States.
Right.
And if you come from the old Cold War time like I do, you remember those kind of things. I mean, that's why the whole 13 days with Cuba,
Right.
the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Right.
was so scary, as you wanted that extra time. If it took 15, 20 minutes for the ICBMs to go from Russia over here, you've got time. If it takes 2 minutes, you don't have time.
Right.
And the first strike capability. And so that's the kind of concern that you would have. But what I saw was, well, wait a minute, hold it here. They're not getting the Ukraine funding at the moment. Turner pushed for Ukraine aid, Mike
Right.
Turner,
Yeah.
the Republican. All right, this is what they're doing to get the public scared in order to get public support, for funding for Ukraine.
Right.
And I went, you're going to have a ton of people, whether it's true or not,
Right.
you're going to have a ton of people believe that and go, nope, there is no threat. When the government consistently lies to you, the result is what you saw yesterday.
Yeah.
People weren't buying anything.
Right.
And the and I won't call them conspiracy theories, because when you simply say there's a national security threat and here's what it is, it must be addressed immediately, then you're going to have everybody try to speculate what might that be.
Exactly.
And so all the scenarios come in, which is, okay, it's really not that serious of a threat. It was there yesterday. They knew about it. They knew about it 6 months ago. They knew about it a year ago. And it's no big deal. They're just pushing for Ukraine funding. Now, you and I are different from some of the Republicans out there. We believe you have to confront Russia.
Yeah.
Our problem is, and it's not that Zelensky and Ukraine are perfect actors whatsoever. It's when you grow up in the Cold War, you realize sometimes it is an absolute necessity to support the surrogate that is waging war against your enemy.
Right.
The problem is here, and I'll state complete ignorance here, because I don't trust anything from the Biden administration.
There's the other thing.
You can't trust anything.
Right.
And so when people come up to me and go, well, what do you think should be done with Ukraine and Russia? I have to look at them and honestly say, I could speculate, but I'd be speculating. I don't know, because I can't trust anything that comes out of the Biden administration. Nothing. I can't trust. And if I can't trust anything, and I can't trust the intelligence, we'll get to that story, the Matt Taibbi, Matt Schellenberg story about what they say is a CIA setup of the Russia collusion hoax, with Brennan right behind it.
Well, that's another thing. I saw Jake Sullivan's name in the whole string of breaking news today. I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Oh, but he was out there talking about how they're going to be transparent and we're an administration of integrity and we're, and I'm just
Are you kidding me?
What are you talking about? You were involved in the Russia collusion hoax.
Right.
With the Hillary campaign.
Well, I was waiting for him to say, we believe Trump could be involved in the imminent threat with his relationship with Russia. I've been waiting for that all day.
But then when Putin came out and basically endorsed Biden, then that went away. I mean, it was like, I couldn't cut the lawn yesterday. I kept looking at my phone going, what's this story? What's this story? And by the way, just because I put a picture of me cutting the lawn yesterday, and people were like, well, there's no lawn, because it's dormant.
Yeah.
You've got the crabgrass. This is time to put on I can't believe I've just gone from all of this to me preparing my lawn for lawn care. But I got put because my southern Bermuda is dormant. When it goes dormant, weeds grow up through it, and crabgrass and clover and everything else, and just running the lawnmower across it. And then today I'm going to put all the weed killer stuff on, and then when it grows, when the southern Bermuda grows, it's like the thickest carpet you could possibly ever imagine, and it chokes out everything. But before it does, you have to do that.
It's May or June before mine gets to that level, and I put my pre-emergent down a few days ago, and it's like just waiting. But seeing Jake Sullivan's name,
I know,
and seeing him respond, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to wait for it. I'm just going to wait.
Yeah, you can't be trusted,
right?
And then his role in getting the 51 intelligence agencies,
right,
to write that letter about,
about the laptop, on his laptop. Yeah, no, it was. And this is the insanity.
You can't trust the intelligence agencies. You can't trust our intelligence. Well, I don't know if you're lying to me or not.
I can't trust Putin. I can't trust Biden. At times, I can't trust Republicans. And honestly, there's no way. This is not some kind of populist conspiracy theory. They're all corrupt thing. It's just that I don't know what the motive is. I don't know what the truth is. And the fact is that you can't trust anything coming from this administration. And then the incompetence. And also, no one can really deny it now. Whatever the cognitive issues with this president are, make for a very scary situation. And that was the case before everything developed yesterday and what we learned. And certainly would be the case if Putin is on his way to becoming an imminent threat to the U.S.
And then that one came up also, and I went, okay. And it's like, no, Republicans want to highlight the fact that that because of Biden's cognitive state, he is not addressing, this type of serious security concern.
Right.
And I went, okay, you can throw that one into the mix.
Sure, exactly. Because you can't trust it. Is he making the right decision? He's still commander-in-chief. Until he's not, he's the one that makes the call.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Tires command a lot of attention. As a top expense for drivers and a leading cause of CSA violations, any tire maintenance practice that can help extend tire life is worth consideration. Consider tire balancing, which can set you up for savings and a smoother ride before your tires touch the highway. Tire balancing corrects an uneven distribution of weight in tires and wheel assemblies, but the trick is to be proactive and not reactive. Conduct routine pre- and post-trip tire inspections and pay special attention to inflation. Tires with too little air will wear prematurely and create more resistance, which can result in increased fuel consumption, a harsher ride, and ultimately lead to a blowout.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, our thoughts are with the people of Kansas City after the shooting today at the Chiefs Super Bowl rally. I just saw when I woke up the scene. It's an overall shot of the crowd still there, and you can hear the shots, and you can see It looks like I'm going to estimate a couple of thousand people at least. Just you can just see them all running in the opposite direction. And what I found out was you had a significant number of people that weren't shot; they were actually trampled. That's how they were. That's how they were hurt. But you and I were both saying, because when I went to sleep, when I took my nap, like from 6 to 10, when I went to sleep, I said, "Well, when I wake up, we're probably going to know something about the suspects." It's really strange. There may be. I haven't checked in since we went on the air here a half hour ago. But I haven't seen any update on the suspects and who they are.
3 people detained. That's all we know.
Yeah.
Autonomous individuals in unison. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Oh, I got to tell you, this was funny yesterday in National Review. Charles Cook.
Yeah.
Sometimes he writes the greatest. Him and Jim Garrity at times just get so funny.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is a model of vigor and excellence. Just a couple paragraphs here. When I first arrived in the Oval Office, I thought that President Biden must have stepped out for a moment. I was wrong. He was under the Resolute desk doing push-ups to a soundtrack of 90s electronica. Our reconciliation was worth the wait. Charles, he shouted vigorously over the noise. Good to see you. I knew then that I was in the presence of a firecracker. I had been told by the media that Biden seemed older these days. Hardly. With me, he was his usual lively self. He told jokes. He quoted Shakespeare. He played Bach on his miniature harpsichord. At 81, Biden is redefining the Renaissance man. A chance reference to my honeymoon in Paris prompted him to sketch me a complete map of the city. A question about chess led to him running in detail through each of Kasparov's wins. Einstein, he exclaimed at one point, was an absolute clown. I don't even know where he's going with that one.
Yeah.
We were halfway through the fifth game of one-on-one basketball when I finally flagged. You tired, Jack? He asked me triumphantly. I admitted that I was. Well, that's 5 in a row for me, he replied.
5 in a row.
Time for me to prepare dinner. His lobster thermidor was perhaps the best I've ever tasted. But when we got to the sixth course...
6-course meal.
I understood the sheer scale of his cooking genius.
Oh, my gosh.
My goodness, the tenderness of that duck. The exquisite combination of flavors. And to have been paired so delicately with the wine. Most men would have considered such a meal an achievement in itself. But Joe Biden isn't most men. He does more in an hour than I will do in a lifetime. And for that, I am grateful. Over Brandy Alexander's, we talked about America. Biden told me about the water issues in California and the factory closures in Michigan and the challenges facing the SEC in the realm of cryptocurrency. And eventually, I said that I needed to go to bed. Before I left, he staged a one-man performance of The Crucible. I am not ashamed to admit that I wept.
I love it.
I know on Fox News yesterday they were running the banner that just said, Democrats don't want you to believe your own eyes. And that's where we are right now. But that applied, like I said, to the story when it came out yesterday, where because, look, I've always been, since I've been covering politics, which is, now 40 years or so, I've always been a cynic. You can't, and I still, it's a cynic when it comes to politicians and what they actually say.
Yeah, right.
And I still believe that the media, for the most part, kisses the butts of politicians so they can get access to them.
Mm-hmm.
That access to the politicians is more important than holding them accountable. And the reason is, in today's day and age, if you truly ask the tough questions, you'll be blackballed as a media person. They don't want to deal with you.
Yeah,
It's
your
either,
access is gone.
It's either it's sis boom rah rah rah, or you're gone. They don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
And by the way, it applies to both parties.
Mm-hmm.
You and I know that.
Yep.
From our interview pass. Whenever we ask the tough questions, you get pushback. What are you doing? I'm a Republican. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, then go ahead and BS me.
Yeah.
Could you pilot higher and deeper for me, please?
Right.
That's what I really want. I'm only in this business to get access to you, just the personality of you.
Right.
The transparency that you're supposed to give me and the truth that you're supposed to give me. I'm sorry. Sorry I had that expectation. And so, yesterday was that kind of a a day for me, which is, and especially, like I said, what you have seen over the last, you go from 2016 on, what you have seen from government is unprecedented since I've been covering, politics. Now, you can make, and there have been some scenarios, not scenarios, but some comparisons out there where you've got people that have, decent memories or no history that sit there and say, yeah, you look at the last election of FDR, and this is almost the same thing. He shouldn't have run for president.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't capable of being the president.
Right.
That's the stuff going on, and neither is Biden. And back then, you think about it, because the media, how much did the media cover for him not being able to walk? It would have never happened today, probably. But then you look at how the media has protected Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah.
Until now. How they've continued to
2020 wasn't about COVID. You think about the run in 2020. That was not about COVID. Hiding him in the basement wasn't about COVID.
No.
They got a great excuse, but it wasn't about COVID. We all know it. And, those are the things that, and we kind of saw it on the campaign trail, when he was losing it. He's telling that assembly line worker, screaming at that assembly line worker. Remember the whole Joe the Plumber thing with Obama?
Yeah.
And, say what you will, Joe the Plumber was very direct. Obama didn't scream at him. Now, he said some things that were, we all took issue with the answer, the whole idea of, well, at some point you've made enough money, and then he throws out the $250,000 a year comment. And by the way, with inflation, $250,000 a year, that's still below the poverty line in California.
I think Barbara Lee has now made that the new suggested minimum wage after $50 didn't seem
for
to fly.
teens. Adults, it'd be $500,000 a year. Yeah. And but the exchange wasn't, you didn't see Obama screaming at Joe the Plumber. Joe the Plumber, in my opinion, won that exchange, basically issuing, his concerns with, what Obama wanted to do with taxing people that were, in many cases, as we had pointed out, hard workers, people like Joe the Plumber. And the problem is that now there is no excuse, and there's no way to hide Joe Biden. You don't get the excuse of COVID. You don't get the excuse at all. You get a loud helicopter. You can only do that a couple of times. Not that they won't try it again, but that's going to wear thin. But even still, let's say they decided to listen to Van Jones and put Joe back in the basement and not let him out. Maybe they're going to use this Russian nuclear threat as we need to keep him in a secure area.
Oh, wow.
And literally the basement of the White House.
He'll now be in the Nebraska bunker.
Exactly, off at Air Force Base. And I got to ask my parents. I was born on that base. I need to ask them if I was born in that bunker. Something makes me feel like they wanted to examine me a little bit further.
See, that could be your heavy metal song.
Yeah.
Born in a bunker.
Born in a bunker baby. By the bunker babies. The nuclear bunker babies. That's a metal name. But, they could, I could see this at, while it's not an imminent threat, we can't trust Putin. And so we're going to be very cautious about how the president look, he hasn't been traveling the same. That whole thing that, that's really kind of not, they don't even address it. There are conferences, international conferences, basically summits what was the one recently that he just the climate change thing? He just didn't go. He just didn't go.
Yeah, that's
And
pretty
they
amazing.
didn't really.
Right.
They didn't come out and say, "Listen, the president's schedule doesn't allow for it. There are things here that he needs to address." Blah 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 blah. I mean, they may have said that during a presser, but they weren't making a big deal about it. They didn't, step up to the podium. He just didn't go. And now, I just don't. It's not going to be. Think about this. We are, wow, my gosh, we're 8.5, a little over 8.5 months out from the election. That goes by very quickly, and there's nothing they can do to, even if they were to, pull him out of the public eye. The image of him has already been set. Whatever they say about it, I'm going to laugh about that bit from. I say bit, but that piece you just read from Charles Cook is so hilarious because that's what they want you to believe, that, hey, you're seeing something very different, but behind closed doors, here's this guy that is full of energy. Nobody buys that. Sorry, nobody buys that. And it's not going to change. It doesn't matter what they try and do. The image of him is already set. The question is, how much weight does it carry with rank and file voters? If the majority of Democrats believe there are cognitive issues, the overwhelming majority of Democrats believe there are cognitive issues, there has to be a thought beyond beating Trump. Because then what? Is it? And I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. If they vote for Biden because they can't vote for Trump, they don't want Trump to be the guy, are they thinking, well, I guess Kamala Harris, you've seen the articles kind of float to the top.
Yeah.
And she said, she would be, of course, she said the other day, she's prepared. I thought,
oh, man.
You're not prepared. You're so not prepared. He's more prepared than you are. That's how bad it is. And so those are the things that, you look at and ask, how much is it going to motivate the Democratic voter? Or do they stay home and say, I don't want any piece of it at all. I don't want any part in any of it. I can't vote for Biden. I can't vote for Trump. I stay home. And only time will tell.
What I thought was interesting, because it was let me see, a week ago. It would have been Wednesday into Thursday. That because it was been Tuesday of last week where Biden said, I can't take questions now, but I'll take questions tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then he never took any questions until he took a few questions because he didn't know the special counsel's report was going to be released on that day. And then he came out, made the statement, and took like a couple of questions and then walked off. And that was a disaster for him. But so he did take questions. But this week, 2 days ago, he said, I'm not going to take any questions, but I'll take them tomorrow and the next day. And then Karine Jean-Pierre, the question was brought up to her. The president said he's going to take questions today or tomorrow. Is he? There's nothing on the schedule. And he's going Friday to Ohio. So now he's basically taunting the White House press corps, saying, because that, and I saw Dana Perino, this is before all this happened, last week, said the White House press corps is really ticked. Even the liberals are ticked because, you and I talked about that. One of the things that we believe they're ticked off about is the fact that they look to the White House for their talking points.
Right.
And they're looking for good talking points.
Right.
Biden can't give good talking points.
Right.
So they're already desperate for that. And then they can never get their questions answered by Karine Jean-Pierre or Kirby. So they look to the president and they say, well, we need to talk to the president about it. Well, there's nothing on the schedule. Well, then why don't you put something on the schedule? Why doesn't a reporter ask that question? Why don't you put something on the schedule, since the American people don't know this? You claim that you say you have a responsibility to be transparent to the American people, yet you're not, because you don't give access of the president to the press.
We're here to carry the water, and you're giving us no water.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Stuff coming up.
Things and stuff.
That's a lazy way out, isn't it?
We have things and stuff and more.
I love the story. The NBC is reporting the special counsel Hur was not the one who raised the question of President Biden's son. It was Biden. Well, that story was out day one. I don't know why everybody just jumped on that today.
Right.
We talked about it last week.
Right. Yeah, we did.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning.
Hello.
Already made it to a Thursday.
Yes, we did.
We did. And reading here from CNN, the White House is making its frustration over recent press coverage known.
Well,
in a letter Tuesday to the White House Correspondents Association, Ian Sams, spokesperson for the White House counsel's office, expressed concern about how the news media has covered special counsel Robert Hur's report on President Joe Biden's handling of classified material. In the letter, which CNN was first to report, Sams conceded that covering the report is challenging given that it is nearly 400-page long and not straightforward. Hur's references to Biden's mental acuity, he acknowledged, have stolen attention from the crux of the matter, writing that Hur's wrong and inappropriate personal comments have distracted from the due attention to the substance. Well, that's a load of manure.
Yeah, that's garbage.
Yeah, that's... Let's call it what it is. Of course, his mental acuity is key because that's one of the main reasons he won't prosecute.
Exactly.
Like I said, and the Republicans should set a date. Have they? I know they said they were going to. They were going to have her testify in front of the House.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That's going to happen. But the fact is, instead of complaining to the press corps for actually covering something, at least for the first 24 hours, in more of a way that they should, you should be demanding that the special counsel release the transcript, since you say the transcript is all in your favor of the president.
Well, that's kind of what we said from the beginning, and it's, well, wait a minute, you want to prove that everything is, good, then you should have the transcript released. You should have no problem with the president getting a mental acuity check as a part of his physical and demonstrating that clearly to the American people. If there were, that would be my go-to. I've never been president, but if the media was coming at me saying, we believe your blood work, well, here's my blood work. Here's my latest complete blood count. Go through it. Have at it. Because they're coming back hard. The Charles Cook piece earlier in the show, so brilliant in that it is, so much garbage. Man, he needs to step in for Kareem Jump because I would love to hear that kind of creativity.
Well,
she's not creative at all.
Or I'd say take over for Jon Stewart on Mondays.
Yeah, exactly. No, he could be a writer.
Did you did you happen to see, I think it was on Instagram,
Mm.
did you see our friend, comedian Steve Byrne, going after
John Stewart?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Saying, sorry, bud.
Yeah.
You broke up with the girlfriend. Now you want to basically come back part-time.
Yeah. Oh, you saw also what he said on, I think it was the CBS morning show about why he was coming back. Or he talked about the timeline and what happened at Apple Plus.
Yeah.
And that you didn't want him saying things that would get him in trouble. You didn't bring subscribers to Apple Plus. That's kind of the math there. That's the way it works. They go hire who they think is a big name, and if it doesn't bring it about, then sorry, they're going to let you go. I don't know. There must be dozens of people that have the Apple Plus subscription.
Well,
the thing is that that's the whole thing with the Daily Show. Jon Stewart's funny. I don't know. Going back to the Daily Show, you're trying to recreate something that was happening back then. I could understand if he did a weekly show on HBO. So let's say because you got John Oliver's on, I forget what, Sunday night? Bill Maher's still on.
I have no idea.
When's Bill Maher on? Is it Friday or Saturday?
Friday
I don't
nights.
have HBO.
Friday.
Is it okay? Friday. You could have Jon Stewart on once a week, and it wouldn't be the Daily Show, but it would be the Daily Show. It'd be just like what he did: have an hour show, bring on a guest, and do it once a week. Jon Stewart's funny. It's because the thing is that everyone was waiting. The Keith Olbermanns of the world were waiting. The leftists were waiting for him to come back and I guess, defend Biden and only go after Trump or whatever. And they can't. It's a totally different audience in that room. You're not going to get that audience again. Although the audience that was sitting there was laughing. He wasn't getting booed.
No, he wasn't.
When they recorded
No,
that.
no,
Now,
no.
I know it's a different scenario, and they probably have applause signs. I don't know if they do or not, but it is a different scenario when you're there watching it being taped. But still, we've talked about this with Bill Maher. He said things on his show where the audience clapped and was like, "Whoa, these are liberals."
When you look at his whole thing, because Steve Byrne also hit him on the Apple thing too. Just
right.
pounded on him, saying, "Stop it."
Yeah.
You and I've been in this business for a long time. We've worked for small market radio stations, and we've worked. Really, I look at the last 30 years. I've worked for the conglomerates.
Yeah,
and the perception, I don't get it. I hardly ever get it anymore because we've explained, behind the scenes, how it works. We had the one guy who called us one time and said, "You guys get your talking points. You guys are just reading the talking points." And we said, "Yeah, well, so you believe that every morning, like at 9:30 in the morning when I wake up, I have the emails from whomever, which is my talking points for the day?" And he said, "Yes." And it's tough for people to believe that in many of the big corporations, including Apple or whomever,
right,
they only care about a couple of things: that you can be entered. They care about pulling in an audience, and if you're in this business, the radio station's not losing their licenses because of what you say.
Right.
And that would simply be,
and you're not getting sued for saying something that
You're
damaging to an entity, a company, or a person.
Right. You're not going to libel or defame anybody.
Right.
And that's all they really care about.
Mm-hmm.
The content they care about if you're not performing.
Right.
If you're not performing, then you'll hear, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Because it's not working. We're not pulling in an audience. Do whatever you got to do to bring in an audience.
Right.
But don't defame anybody. Don't libel anybody. and don't lose our, not, for Apple, whatever, but in this business, don't lose the radio station's licenses.
Right.
By doing something that is stupid. And we know what the parameters are.
Yeah.
But the parameters when it comes to ideas, there are none.
Right.
Or issues, there are none.
Right.
There's nothing.
There are no, on the ideas, there's nothing that we can't discuss.
It's only happened one time with one general manager, one time, who said he didn't like my topics. That happened one time.
Mm-hmm.
And it never happened again.
Right.
Because we had it out and the upper management backed me.
Right.
And he just, and this is one of the things and it happens in every business where somebody will hire you. And when you're in, and this is showbiz like anything else,
mm-hmm.
Entertainment. It's entertainment, information, everything out there. It's a combination.
Because in fact, I just made a bunch of people laugh when I said our show is entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. See, that was entertaining.
There you go.
But they really, and we worked for Disney.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for Disney for 8 years?
Yeah. I was with them.
Yeah,
11.
8 years.
I was with them 11.
Disney for 8 years. They never tried to control editorial content.
No.
At all.
Now, to be fair, they didn't realize we existed, but that's not the point.
But the majority of people that I have worked for, companies and people that I have worked for,
mm-hmm.
Have and even either the companies or my bosses have been liberal.
Yeah.
And
I know some very good talk programmers who are liberal.
One of the best talk programmers I worked for that understood. He was a broadcaster. Understood.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he was I'll never forget the story he told me. Good. I don't think he's not. He said this way back. This goes back decades ago. He told me, he said, well, I'm not a crazy liberal. And that was, 25 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much he looks at the Democratic Party today. I haven't talked to him about politics in years.
Yeah.
I don't know how he looks at it today. But he used to program a liberal station and a conservative station at the same time.
Right.
And he said, you want to hear my phone? It's like, you guys are commies. You guys are fascists. You guys. He goes,
yeah.
Once in a while, I'll forget who I'm talking to or what phone line from what station I'm on.
Right.
But what they care about, also, I'm sure the left would disagree with, what they care about is you can pull in an audience so they can make a profit. That's what it really comes down to.
That's it.
Now,
it could be the case that Apple Plus, because we know that a lot of these streamers are, going the woke route, and they believe that's their audience. That's going to be the core of their subscription base. I don't know if that's the case with Apple Plus. I have no idea. I don't know. And it could be that maybe John wasn't woke enough, or that's not what he focuses on. Because he doesn't come off as like a woke comedian. He's liberal, but he doesn't come off as one of the woke comedians. I don't know what he was doing on that Apple Plus thing. I never witnessed his performance there. But we do know you can see the woke on some of the streamers, Netflix at times. You can see it you can see it all over the HBO thing, And a lot of the streamers are, they think that's their route. It may not be 100% of what they're doing, but it's a big part of it. So, to that extent, maybe they thought they were getting something from John that they weren't. But ultimately, if John were bringing massive subscriptions, regardless of whether he was fitting that mold that they wanted, that's not going to. Sorry, they're going to re-up.
Yeah, the only thing that I've really seen that most of what I've seen is, obscenity probably isn't acceptable. But if whatever your ideas are politically, if you can make it funny and pull in an audience, management doesn't care.
Right.
They don't care.
Right.
It's like, just, go do your thing. And
I wondered about HBO with Bill Maher. I wondered about it, because HBO's, look, it's liberal. If you look at the HBO productions, the original stuff they put up over the years, look, it's original. It's a very liberal, and it's, you can see it. You can see that thread, and I do believe Bill Maher is a liberal. But I've been wondering for a couple of years, as he taps the brakes and says, wait a minute, how long before. But he's getting a lot of attention. I don't know how many, I don't know how they measure it by views, and how many people are tuning in. But, I don't know the calculations, the bean counting on that. But certainly they still believe Bill Maher is worth having at HBO. And I would tell them probably, even though I'm not a subscriber, yeah, he gets a lot of talk. There's a lot of people, and we will play clips. He's getting a lot of attention. Regardless of what his viewpoints are, it doesn't matter if your subscribers are, writing in saying, oh, I'm not happy with this. Well, are people watching? And that's what it comes down to. Are those people bringing subscribers in, keeping subscribers there, getting the attention, the viewership that they're designed to do? And Stewart is one of these comedians that, as you mentioned yesterday, and I agree with you, he's not one of these, new liberal comedians. He's Jon Stewart. He really was one of those early on. I don't know if it's weird because they're calling these alternative comedians. There's a group of comedians, they call them alternative comedians. I would have called Jon Stewart that back in the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't fit the mold that everybody else was going down, the road everybody was going down. And then when he went to The Daily Show, that success there, I do not agree at all with his politics, but I can see where it's funny. I know moments where it was funny. Even if he's making fun of somebody I support on my side, sometimes it's funny. But the audience is different. That room has changed, and I don't think you're going to change that.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
After fuel, an owner-operator's second biggest variable cost is tires. To save, get as much life out of them as possible with good habits. Maintain proper inflation. It's free and easy, yet it's the highest saving maintenance you can perform on the truck. Improper inflation is by far the greatest reason tires fail early. Perform routine maintenance. If a technician can by hand initiate irregular movements in tie rod ends, kingpins, wheel bearings, and torque rods, that spells trouble. Fight irregular wear by replacing suspension components. On the steer axle, change your shocks at least as often as you change your tires. On the drive axle, replace shocks halfway through the tire's life, and when the tires are changed too. Finally, employ good driving habits. You have full control here. More conservative driving over rough surfaces helps reduce wear. Speeding, hard braking, curbing, and tight turns cause tires to wear fast. On the other hand, steady acceleration, braking, and steering can extend the life, saving a bundle. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section on the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, one thing I will say about television, though, if you look at television and the new shows out there, they have a lot more producers and executive producers and more management that wants to have, if you look at even any sitcom, you're always getting the advice, from the networks as to what they like and what they don't like and everything else. Mm-hmm. Talk radio really is different. And people, really, I would say most people that know me understand what the business is because they know me and they go, no, that's you on the air. You're saying exactly what you believe. Mm-hmm. Most people find it hard to believe that a major corporation will hire you and say, okay, go do what you want on the air.
Right. Go be who you are.
Yeah, you just go be who you are. We're not going to tell you what to do. You just go do it. They just believe, no, there's got to be a bigger conspiracy out there of people telling you that everything is tightly controlled, that whether it's the Democrat deep state or the Republican. Let me see, MAGA fascists, okay?
The Illuminati.
The Illuminati, that somebody is telling you what to do. They don't believe that a major corporation would hire individuals and say, all right, what we want to do is you say whatever you want on the air, and we're going to give you a nice paycheck at the end of the week.
Right.
Well, I mean, after 30 years in the business, a nice paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, you and I both have friends in television, and a couple of my friends in TV over the years have been, so you don't, they one of them was shocked that there's no script in the presentation, and so how do you do that? What do you when you're live and you're talking about things, and it's like, well, you just have a conversation. That's basically it.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I always find it interesting when I talk to people just to, because they believe, okay, we're getting a behind-the-scenes thing. I go, well, there really is no behind-the-scenes. Because you and I get that. What's it like behind the scenes? I don't know.
Boring.
Got up, grabbed my phone, petted the cat, got a super coffee, showered, dressed, came to work, went on the radio.
No, I mean, you and I talked about this.
What's it like behind the scenes? There is no scene.
Yeah. No, this is why we love going on the air. The rest of it is boring.
Yeah, exactly. This is the exciting part.
You and I have talked about it on and off the air, I think, but it's that this is what we love doing, and the retirement, forget about that. No, I don't, because in my mind, when I was 35, 59 and a half, that's actually where I had drawn that line.
When you and I started working together, you talked about, 59, and it was like, okay,
yep.
What about you? And I had these grandiose plans that I would have already been retired for a couple of years, and I'd be playing golf every day, and I'd, and even making longer trips up north where I could have, do a bunch of skiing in January and February.
Right.
Not realizing when I had those thoughts and discussions with you that I'm not going to kill myself at this age by doing that stuff.
Well,
and I would, so I might as well do this.
59 and a half would be next summer.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
I know. It's interesting
because of we have a great opportunity every night to do this, but because there are so many things to talk about. And honestly, we talk about this, the venting part of it, being able to vent, but it's not just that. I think a big part of it, too, is to have the conversation and not have to rely on the other conversation that half the time on social media is filled with
that's it.
Bad information or the willful ignorant, where people will just, throw something up. I don't want to, because to me, social media has never been real. Facebook is a family album, and that's the value there. And I'm rarely on Facebook, and it's also helping. It helps with fundraisers when your grandchildren have fundraisers, and they hit you up on Facebook, and that's great too. X, what used to be Twitter, is part of the job. It's not the same way because you and I don't trust any of the media anymore to get it right. So either way, we're still going to do a lot of research when we see the stories, but we're still fairly active there. It's not real. It's not real life. It's not real conversation. This is the real conversation. and always has been. Someone asked me, one of the executives in our company several years ago, what do you want to do? I said, radio. And the thing is that this is where that opportunity is. And it doesn't really exist in television. It doesn't really, I think there are people in television that issue opinion, and I think they're giving the opinion of, how they really think. But it's also presented differently. And as you mentioned, in television, there's so many producers and everything else involved, even in opinion television. It's a totally different thing, and that's not my thing. Radio's my thing. And I think to myself, well, I can't imagine, as important as things are right now and as critical as they are, as crazy as they are, it's only going to be more so, and you and I have witnessed this in nearly 19 years together doing this in, after the election. It doesn't matter who wins. November 6th, there's going to be a ton of questions, again, regardless of who wins. And then the same thing the next election season, the midterm, and then 2028, then 2032. I mean, all these things that are on the table right now have to be addressed. Nothing is in the abstract anymore. Everything has become reality. And so these things have to be fixed, not prevented, but fixed.
And when I first became a talk show host in '89, but I was covering the news beforehand as a station manager and over a news department and everything else. So I've been paying attention for, over 40 years. Personally, I was still paying attention before that, but
I just started paying attention about 6 months ago,
and it shows
exactly.
I
was thinking about that too. I was my first couple of years in radio. They made me news director, which was a bad move. So yeah, we were covering things. Think about that. And as a station manager, you also have other interests involved. Obviously, you've got to protect the the station. You've got to look out over everybody and everything else they're saying too.
When I became a talk show host, it was give your opinion. And I had, and you always had thoughts, and then you again, I didn't want to do talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
So I was forced into it by a radio station owner that said, we can't find a talk show host, you're going to do it. And I said, I won't, and I can't. I can't, and I won't. She said, you don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And bless her soul, she passed away a couple of years ago. But whenever I talked to her, I had to tell her, thank you for making me do talk radio, because I just it fits everything that gives me enjoyment.
Right.
It's not, because I was at that point dabbling in stand-up comedy and doing rock radio and just thought that was cool. And there's a part of it where when you're doing music radio or even stand-up comedy, you're doing it to be loved. You're doing it to get the applause.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I don't want to make clear. I didn't do anything to get. I never thought, I want other people's love.
The idea is to get the applause.
You want the applause. You want the laughter. You want. That's what you're trying to bring out. Once you enter this realm, you're going to have it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it, or whether, because we have a good time on the show. We get that all the time. It's like, you guys, we can listen to you because you're covering all the issues and you're passionate about it, but it's fun and entertaining and things like, and it's like, well, that's what we're trying to do, because we know that if every day we're on here going, everything sucks, and that's the tone of our voice all the time, and once in a while it does get to that point, but it's rare that it does. We just know that you're not going to be able to keep an audience, and if you can't keep an audience, then your message doesn't get through, and because then you're unemployed at that point. But being part of a news department, and you and I have talked about it back then, and call it old school, but I had at one point, a very great investigative radio news team that actually broke stories. And we actually did a number of times use sources to break stories, inside local government.
Right.
And we never got it wrong. And that was something that we were passionate about.
Right.
If you're going to use sources, you've got to be right every time. You cannot be wrong. It's sort of like my dad told me, in business, you can't be wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, Dad, what are you talking about? Human beings are flawed. We're all going to be wrong. He goes, well, if you're in business and you don't know if you're 100% right, then shut up.
Right.
Don't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his point. The goal should always be to be 100%.
Don't open the door until the store is ready.
Right. And so that was always my mentality. And I never cared about being first.
Right.
Because to be first and wrong is useless.
Right.
You know, you don't accomplish anything. You slowly lose credibility with your audience. But that was the thing that really, when I saw that happening, when source stories started going wrong, and we spend more time, I think, at times, and people will believe it's an opinion, but we're trying to dissect a story, which comes out as an opinion, and we're saying, well, this is the truth of what's going on there. Well, that's to the opposition of that. The people that are lying, they're going to attack you for not telling the truth. For example, you saw Bob Alinsky got that yesterday, and his attorney came back and said, "Oh, you're saying he's not telling the truth or he's not doing this? Game on." You know, his attorney came, game on. This guy's not trying to get anything out of it.
Right.
It's not a profit motive behind it.
Right.
Nothing's behind it. He's not a Republican operative. And
Right.
as he pointed out, the only donations he ever gave was to Democrats. You know, he wants the truth. You're going to challenge him? Game on. Let's do it. You know, that's the kind of thing, you know, that's the kind of attitude that we've always had, game on. And it's more important to me. Getting the truth out there is more important to me than my opinion on the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, that's more important to, you know, I think to
I've
us.
always felt
and
that
that's,
way. Yeah.
And that's how it's sort of changed, because getting into, when you first get into talk radio, you don't know what to do. They throw you on the air and they go, all right, talk. Huh? What? And as you said, you've talked to TV people that have said, well, how do you script that? And what do you do? And it's like, well, none of it's scripted.
Well, and
What
that
are
was
you talking
the thing.
about? You go on the air for 5 hours and none of it's scripted? Well, maybe in my mind, I have the ideas of where I want to go.
Right.
But no, it's not. And we have the story, so we have the reference of where the stories come from.
Right.
But as to any, you don't have any notepad down there with anything on it. I don't have any notes here, just the stories that we have in case, and they're printed just in case the computers go down, that we have the hard copies to go to. But I wouldn't want to be scripted. Oh, gosh, who was the guy? Oh, he was a Texas Democrat. He did a national show a couple of years ago, and he was on C-SPAN. His name just pops out of my mind, but he was liberal. And he had a script. And he would basically, he scripted the entire, and everything was off. Like, he was huge. He could have used a teleprompter on the radio, and he was just reading. I'm like, oh, my God, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's look, if you're, and this is something where you look at someone like a Keith Olbermann. He was reading a prepared script when he was on. That was his prepared script.
Yeah, they
every
all
night.
do. Yeah, they all do.
You know, and that's the thing, is that I'm sure I could become good at that. I don't have any interest in that, which is why I'm not good at that. I don't have any interest in doing, even if I'm writing that script, I feel like the audience is getting something that I had to edit down, and I don't like that idea. Now, you and I have a clock we have to pay attention to, and we rarely do, much to the dismay of our production team. But those are the things where, if you're going to do a presentation, if you're going to have a conversation, for me, it has to be real. If that's what they want to do, great. But to me, if it's scripted, that means it's also edited.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Yeah, so we'll get to the whole thing of the special counsel. We were talking about that, then we just got on in general, the whole Jon Stewart thing, and then just did a little bit of just inside the media stuff and talk radio and everything else. It's always fun to do that, just to give people a little indication of the fact that, yeah, they just let us go on the air and say what we want.
And also that, the conversations, there are plenty of conversations. In fact, most presentations out there are shaped in some way, and ours, while it has to be shaped to fit the clock, is basically us. You and I have both gotten that over the years. So what do you really think? Now that you're not people that would meet us, is that how you really think? Is that, this is it? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is it. And
your first indication is to get angry, but you'd end up laughing.
Well, no, that's the thing, is that I don't know what you wanted me to be, or what you expected me to be. I don't know. I sometimes want to have fun with it. It's happened only a couple of times. But, I'm trying to prepare maybe a bit that I could do. It's like, no, man, I'm totally on board for Bernie Sanders or, something. You don't know how liberal I am.
I actually support Bernie Sanders, but I can't keep a paycheck.
Yeah, exactly.
Professionally by doing that.
It's also to a fault, because my family will tell you, one of the things you have to do in radio in general is leave it at the door. If something's going on in your personal life, you still have to show up and be able to do what you do. But at home, I don't always follow. I don't always follow that rule, though. When something will happen, and all of a sudden I'm in my living room and I've got a talk show going and everybody's just looking at me like, okay, we want to move on. Next caller, please.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. We do really appreciate it.
We thank you very much.
This was weird when this came out yesterday, because it just seemed to be huge, and I'm like, well, you and I talked about this last Friday.
Yeah.
And it's where NBC is reporting that the special counsel Hur, was not the one who raised the death of President Biden's son. It was Biden himself. Well, that was known. I can't remember where we read it from last Friday. I searched and I just don't remember. But that was somebody had that as a news item because you and I said it on the air. We said it's coming out. And that was a day later. That would have been Thursday night, Friday morning. Yeah.
Right.
After a full day had gone by, it's like
right. Yeah.
Sources say that, and for some reason the media just picked up on it yesterday. But this was known back last Friday.
Right.
But it's extremely important because Biden went out to defend that I have no cognitive problems, and then went on to show that he has cognitive problems
right.
in his actual address. And then it gets worse because the point of where the White House and Biden wish to gain the most sympathy is how dare this special counsel, who is this mean Republican, brought up the death of my son.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, he just remember he said that it's none of their damn business.
Yeah.
When they
right.
asked the question.
Right.
Well, he did, and I'm reading Jonathan Turley here from his Twitter page. NBC is reporting that Special Counsel Hur was not the one who raised the death of President Biden's son. It was Biden himself. Yet the president told the public the very opposite in an irate moment in the recent press conference, to address it.
Right.
And so the thing that he got the angriest about, in order to elicit sympathy from viewers, well, he either lied
or doesn't remember how it happened.
Or he doesn't remember.
And either one is a distinct possibility. That's a 50-50. I'm not putting a bet on that one.
And so it's like, so you're saying you've got cognitive abilities, and on the main point that you wish to elicit sympathy so people believe you're completely wrong.
Yeah.
So you're either lying, it's one or the other. You're lying, or you don't even remember the conversation, and you're getting furious over something that never happened. Because the president enraged many with his story, and various media outlets played up the outrageous and callous question. Like I said, we addressed it last Friday when it said, well, this report says no, the special counsel didn't come up with it. Biden did. This is another example of why hearing the tape could answer the very questions being raised by the White House.
Yeah.
If it was true that Biden raised his son's death, the press statement becomes truly baffling. The corrected version would read, I love this. This is great. How in the hell dare could I raise that? When I raised the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. I just love the way that he puts it.
That's basically how it went down.
Right.
Wow. Well,
and so
this is the problem that the White House has. Because he immediately came out to challenge it, right?
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, while challenging it, demonstrated that there are cognitive issues, and anybody could see it. But the more you go back and challenge the report, the back and forth in challenging any point made in that report, the president himself can't be the one any longer to do that. Because we don't know. It is quite possible that he doesn't remember how it went down. He doesn't remember that it was he that brought up his son, not the other way around. And the more you try and convince him, he's defiant anyway. But there is a certain defiance that comes with cognitive issues that is part of the condition because they don't remember, and the frustration that comes with it. Those of us who are close to it have seen it. And that is something that you don't want to play out in any official setting or even behind closed doors, because it's going to get out if he's the one that's going to sit here and challenge the special prosecutor Hur and that report on any of the points made in that report. You can't have him do that.
Well, here's the thing that's interesting, that I find interesting and fascinating here, because it's such a cluster. And that is, when he said that, was he reading off the teleprompter? Was all this on the teleprompter? Because they knew, from what we know, they have a copy of the transcript. You know, they knew, because they were able to go through and look. The special counsel made it so the White House got it first, and they got to review it.
Right.
And comment if they wish.
Right.
So they know what's in there. So did the special counsel, when you're sitting there saying, okay, here's what you have to say, the speechwriters were the White House lawyers, and maybe even his personal lawyers there, watching this go? Because I would, if I'm a White House lawyer or the president's personal lawyer, I'd want to make sure there are no lies in here.
You can do an ambiguous denial. and say that Special Prosecutor Hur may have gotten the wrong perception, the wrong idea, and it's grossly misstated, and it's an observation by someone, as they mentioned, someone who is not a doctor and blah, blah, blah. When you get into details and specific points, which is kind of my point, and going back and forth and challenging them, especially when it's Biden directly doing it, because you don't know if it's him lying and being defiant like he's always been, or if he doesn't remember and he's being defiant as a part of the condition.
Well, as you know, Karine Jean-Pierre and Ian Sam's doing the same thing, just generalized comments that it's untrue.
Exactly.
And when any specific is brought up, they said, well, you'd have to deal with the White House counsel's office on that one.
Right.
And they're not going to answer.
Because you can't, that's
Right.
the thing, is that you can't get specific on that. And this is part of the reason. Is that when you do that, then eventually the media is going to be so hungry that they've got to talk to him about it. Biden himself is going to have to answer, and we want Biden. Why isn't Biden out there defending himself stronger? Why isn't he out there answering these specific questions? And you can't let it get to that point, because it is going to be further demonstration of his cognitive decline, and I have no doubt about that. And it's going to be bad. It will. The more you get into the point for point, the thing about his son is actually the most prime example of that, because he is known to lie, and we've seen it. He's told lies about his son. He's told, again, the liberal media, the bizarre set of lies that he has told for years.
Yeah.
So he's known to lie, and that's a very distinct possibility. But think about this. This is a lie that can be disproven very, very easily, and likely will. There now is a very healthy political appetite to get to this, and it's not just coming from the right.
No, because NBC came out with it. It's a story that we knew since last Friday.
Right.
And all of a sudden, boom, here we get to Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, when it's like, the story is all over the place that, wait a minute, the special counsel wasn't the one that brought it up. Biden brought it up.
Right.
Well, the whole thing is with Biden to begin with, as you mentioned, he lies about how his son died all the time now. I mean, it's pathological.
Right.
Trying to convince people that he died, in the Iraq War,
right,
or as a cause of the Iraq War, and there's no evidence of that.
Right. Yeah.
And where he consistently brought it up with the parents of one of the soldiers that died, brought up the same thing. I relate to you because of my son in Iraq, and it's like, what are you talking about? So he already gets it wrong. And then he comes out and he's furious that the special counsel would, because the special counsel put in the report that Biden couldn't remember, what year his son died. And Biden comes out furious at them, accusing them of asking this horrible question, and what business is it of theirs, and how callous and cold can it be? And they were simply responding to something that he said.
Right. And there again
that he brought to the conversation.
He's the one that, and that's really what makes your question so important. Was that on the prompter? Because if it's Biden going off script, which he most often does, then that's Biden's also could be at play here. His condition showing itself, and it could be that that came to the top of his mind in that moment. He's going to go off script and try and get that emotional, response from talking about his son, that's what it's designed to do. Keep in mind, even with cognitive decline, much of who the person is still remains in play.
We've seen
often.
it. Yeah.
So there are lucid moments,
absolutely,
and I've we've all witnessed it. So
because that'll be part of the defense. Well, he was completely lucid right there. Well, yeah, we know that
that's part of the condition.
We've seen it before.
Yes. And
You know,
so
with family members,
there,
friends, we've
there
all
are
seen
varying
it.
degrees of it, and there are good days and bad days. So those are the
And for example, my mother, when she was going through it, and even though, remember, I would still go back, all the time.
yeah,
But the fact is, she didn't see me every day.
right.
She
right,
saw my father every day.
Yeah.
She never forgot me.
right.
Never.
Yeah.
Always knew me. My father told me this. He goes, she never forgot you. Always knew who you were. How's Gary? Whatever.
Yeah.
Because you always stayed in her mind. He goes, she forgot who I was, and
Wow.
I'm with her every single day.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't make sense, and so you can't make the absolutes,
Right.
as I'm sure. Well, he was completely lucid there. It shows that he has no cognitive problems. No, it doesn't work that way.
How
as
a
we know.
brain associates with one thing to another, and from moment to moment in that state of cognitive decline, is still unknown. And it's just,
Yeah.
and it's sad. This is part of it, but it's also in the case of the president, any president, it is extremely dangerous for a nation because decisions have to be made. And he is commander-in-chief until it is determined that he is no longer commander-in-chief. And he's the one to make that call.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, this story came out yesterday by the Twitter Files folks
Mm-hmm.
from Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger. Reading this from Fox here. The journalist known best for publishing the Twitter Files and also the work on Occupy Wall Street protests, claimed in a new report he was privy to evidence of an Obama-era political espionage campaign, not unlike the one its purported target, Donald Trump, long suspected. Matt Taibbi, who published the report with fellow Twitter Files journalist Michael Schellenberger and reporter Alex Gutentag, further told Fox News the narrative of Trump-Russia collusion had the same hallmarks of the Bush-era Iraqi weapons of mass destruction claims. Taibbi was on Fox last night and said the contents of the report that Obama-era CI Director John Brennan asked English-speaking U.S. allies to target the Trump campaign in 2016 and that foreign intelligence services were offered a list of 26 Trump world figures who could be bumped or encountered by intelligence assets. Wow. Guessing that maybe one of them might have been George Papadopoulos, but don't know that yet. Foreign spies did not discover evidence of Trump-Russia collusion and turn it over to the feds. Foreign spies were assigned by Obama's CIA to create a false impression of collusion to trigger an FBI counterintelligence investigation. And that's why you wonder, was Papadopoulos involved in that?
Right.
Obama's CIA worked with Hillary's foreign agents in London to hatch the hoax, which led to the FBI investigation. Fox reported. The report claimed the U.S. intelligence community asked the Five Eyes Intel Consortium, the Americans, British, Canadians, Australians, and New Zealanders, to surveil Trump associates and share intelligence they acquired with U.S. agencies. Information about the alleged cooperation reportedly lies in a 10-inch binder in Langley, Virginia, home to the CIA headquarters, according to Matt Taibbi, who added that if true, espionage and election-related laws were then broken. Taibbi told Jesse Waters that the scope of the former U.S. Attorney for Connecticut, John Durham's special counsel investigation was limited and did not expand in that particular direction. The information that we have, the investigation that was conducted by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, what they found was a broad political espionage campaign. Taibbi summarized the findings in his report as twofold. At least 26 Trump-linked individuals were improperly and without predication placed under surveillance in the election year of 2016, and that intel alleging a Russian interference plot in cahoots with the Trump campaign were unfounded. Well, we know that.
We know that. Yeah. And keep in mind, Carter Page was doing work for the CIA.
Yeah.
And so if the CIA, if it is true that the CIA was essentially giving this task to foreign counterparts, saying, hey, we want you to do the surveillance.
Here's a question I have. Then why did intelligence agencies let it be known that the Hillary campaign was trying to set up Trump? Or were they simply relaying that information to Obama, who already knew it was going, in order to keep him updated as to what's going on?
What was it different actors within the intel community that saw one thing and didn't know the other stuff that was going on? I don't know.
Taibbi said he would like to confirm additional information on the purported binder residing in Northern Virginia, while reporting there's also a report into the origins of the intel community's assessment that never left a vault in Langley. That's like a 7 to 20-page report that was confirmed by multiple sources. Apart from that, we were told there are numerous other investigative materials that may or not be in these binders that stories are referring to, Taibbi said. Wow. Wow.
The most influential radio show in the world. On now, at this moment, Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. So here's what I was thinking. You look at, you mentioned, the election in November, and had a few discussions with a few people yesterday because, these are Republicans stating, well, they impeached and now what? And it's like, well, you've got to understand that talking about Mayorkas, the goal was never to remove him from office. It's the same thing that's going on. I still don't believe, they may get evidence where it's like, okay, this is a slam dunk, and now Democrats are willing to impeach Biden and kick him out of office. That's a possibility because we still don't know all the evidence out there. But in all likelihood, I don't believe that's what the Republicans want to do.
Right.
And so there's a lot of Republicans that believe, okay, if they're impeaching him, they need to kick him out of office. It's like, well, no, that's not the goal. The goal is what you're seeing every day. Because every day I wake up, and I wake up twice, remember, because I sleep twice. So I wake up twice a day going, wow, we're just every single day. You're not really bombarded with Trump stuff. It's not Trump stuff.
Right.
You're being bombarded every single day with absolute lying and gaslighting. I saw Joe Rogan use the term gaslighting, and it's interesting. He was like, I'm still a liberal in many cases and supported Democrats and did this. And my God, the gaslighting here about the president, that has all this vigor and everything else. He goes, how far do they think they can go? And it goes back to what we have said. They're trying to keep their base together, and Democrats believe that the people that vote for them are complete idiots and morons and basically drones. I mean, like the drone kind of, the bee worker that just follows whatever the instinct tells them without any type of critical thinking at all. That's what the Democratic leadership believes of the people that vote for them.
Right. We have to be careful now when we say drones and bots.
Yes, we do, don't we? That's exactly. Oh, you're
Used
right.
to be something different.
But every single day, it's some, and it's not, and the Trump stuff every day is falling apart.
Well, that's it. Think about all of this. If you step back and look at it, Trump's made more appearances in courtrooms in the last few months than he did in all of Iowa. I mean, but no one believes any of that has any teeth. The courtroom stuff, the stuff happening in the courtrooms. They look at that, and Trump has actually said it. Actually, that's good for the campaign because of the two-tier justice system and all of that. That's on full display, and that's why I want to be here, even if I don't have to be here in the courtroom. But there are actual cases against Trump. They're not. They're shells of cases. And you would think, typically, if they were real cases, that would be the story. For the liberal media, it doesn't even have to be a real case. Then that should be the story. But that's not the story with the liberal media right now. The liberal media right now is caught on this whole thing from the special prosecutor's report. Because the liberal media sees what the American people think, including the left. They know that the majority of Democrats, rank and file, believe there's something wrong. They know something is going on with this. They see the whole thing with Mayorkas. So the liberal media, they can see the polls on the border. The left is up, the rank and file Democrats. They don't want an open border anymore. That may change in the future again, but they don't want the open border anymore. They know there's a problem. They're seeing it on the streets in their cities. They see the problems. You're seeing it over and over again. I think Rogan mentioned this too. Something we've mentioned over and over, and that is people in these blue cities are saying, hey, you're spending money on people who aren't citizens, but you're not spending money on us in our neighborhoods. And so you're seeing these voters that are backing away from Democrats that have voted Democrat before, maybe all their life, that are saying, no, the way you've handled this, and we've just pointed to, well, it's no longer abstract versus reality. It's no longer the discussion about whether it should be a sanctuary city or what the policy is or blah, 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 blah. It's the reality of when it hits the fan, and now we're seeing that. And so there is nowhere for them to go. There is really no defense at all. You can try and ignore it like it doesn't exist, like they're doing at the White House with the situation with Biden's cognitive decline. No. He does 400 push-ups before breakfast.
Yeah, but they're not. There's a couple of points here. Number one, they're not winning on it. And number two, one of the things I said is I wake up twice a day. Almost every day I sit and think, my God, in any other time, Biden would have been gone.
Yeah.
In any other time, he would have been forced out.
Yeah. His own party
and with
would be fully on board and active about it. Yeah.
And I'm like, how much can this go on? And then, you have the mindset always exists. And it happened, after the special counsel's report came out. It's like, all right, how will Trump cut his own throat here? Mm-hmm. How will Trump take away the attention of what's going on with Biden and put it on himself and give the media an out, not to cover Biden, but to cover Trump's gaffes? Mm-hmm. And then Trump in the South Carolina rally, did the whole thing about Nikki Haley's husband, which was like, oh, my God. And then did the whole Russia thing, that if they didn't, that I don't believe happened. I don't believe Trump was telling the truth. I don't believe that ever happened with a world leader. Because that would have leaked during the Trump administration. Everything leaked. That would have leaked. I don't think it was ever said.
We would have learned that back then.
Yes. So I don't believe it. I don't believe Trump ever said it. I don't believe him when he said that. I went, that never happened. But the fact is, when he said, if they don't pay their dues, well, I'd encourage, basically
Russia to go after them.
Encourage Russia to go after them. It's like, what the hell was that about? And everybody was like, you saw it. I know that some, Republican media people were out there who are totally loyal to Trump that said, my God, I'm loyal to him. This is crazy. And then went nuts when they got pushback from, very, very loyal Trump supporters. They got pushback, and they're like, look, it was an idiotic thing to say.
Right.
And the Nikki Haley thing didn't make any sense. That's gone.
Yeah, it's over.
I brought that up just to, that's gone. That's completely, because it's dominated each and every day by the gaslighting of this administration. I was reading the article with Joe Rogan going, my God. I mean, they're trying to convince people, that reality doesn't exist. And it's like, well, their whole platform has been based on the fact that reality will never affect it in economics and energy. That, well, we don't worry about reality. Well, now reality's hitting. And you look stupid when reality hits. But the fact is, on this, you don't need to wait for reality. People's reality is we see it with our own eyes.
Yeah.
And when you have the polling out there, I don't, as the column we read the other day that said, you don't get 86% of people in this country agreeing on anything. That's how self-evident it is that Biden has major cognitive problems. Whatever it's from, it's a concern. Whether it's officially dementia, or whether it's just he's aging, his brain is aging a lot quicker, whatever it is, the American people look at it and there's something wrong here, and they're just absolutely doubling and tripling down, to the point of to absurdity. This guy has more vigor. He does more in an hour than the average American does in an entire day. No, he doesn't. Stop lying. And so that's what keeps it in the news, and that's what makes it go into pop culture, because it's funny. It's like the war minister in Iraq. I can't think of his name. Remember the guy? Baghdad Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's nothing going.
There are no
bombs in the background.
troops here in Baghdad, and then all of a sudden a tank rolls by in the background.
And every day is a mostly peaceful video from CNN saying it's mostly peaceful. It looks like the city's been firebombed behind you.
Right. Yeah.
And believe it or not, there's humor in it, because you're trying to sell something you can't sell, and people see through that, and then that goes right to popular culture, which is why somebody like Jon Stewart's got to bring it up.
Well, it's the absurdity, and Stewart points it out, whether it's the lab leak theory and the way he laid it out on Colbert, or the situation right now with Biden. And yes, we know he went after Trump too, but he went after Biden when he came back Monday night on The Daily Show. And they're very clear observations that anybody with eyes that's willing to look is making. And this is the thing I said last week when the special prosecutor's report came out, is that the left didn't want to look at it. They kept using, and you made the important distinction, they kept saying, yeah, we think he's too old. But they never full on went with the whole cognitive decline thing. The report from Special Prosecutor Hur gave them something tangible, where they didn't have to ignore it anymore. And I'm talking about the rank and file, and now even some of the liberal media. They don't have to ignore it because it's in the report, and now the back and forth and his response to it is causing more of a stir. And so that's what has changed. Wherever it goes with the report, I mean, I don't. They're not going to move to prosecution. That's not going to happen. But wherever it goes, it has changed the political landscape, in that it gave the left something, and the left media, at least some of them in the left media, something tangible to say, okay, we don't have to ignore the blue whale pod in the living room any longer.
And right now, anything that Trump says goes away, because it's just something he said.
Right.
It's his words.
It's just Trump saying something.
And we talked about his presidency, which was a real decent presidency. As I've said, normally if you go back to the last few Republican presidents, I probably agreed with them 55% of the time. Trump, I probably agreed 70% of the time, which is really good. As you always said, what they got against him is his own words. He, at times, like last week, is his own worst enemy. What are you doing? But the fact is, those, you hear those things, it's like, okay. And when I saw Marco Rubio go, yeah, I heard what he said, but I know what he did when he was president.
Right.
And he's not getting out of NATO.
Right.
He may throw that out, and that's raw meat to the people that, are rah, 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 sis, boom, bah, everybody. He goes, you're not getting out of NATO. And he said, there was a lot of cooperation. You've got the majority of countries now fulfilling their, economic responsibilities. I think 13 out of 31 aren't, but that means the majority are.
Right.
Which is huge progress to support of NATO. So, but with Biden, it just nothing ever ends with him because they deny the obvious. And when you deny the obvious, the media and the people want the truth and are always going to be going for the truth, and you're making it entertaining for them to do so.
Right.
Because it is. And then yesterday when it came out, even though we knew about it last week and talked about it on the air last week, when it came out and all the media covering it today, well, the special prosecutor isn't the one that brought up his son. So Biden, trying to get sympathy, either lied or he has major cognitive problems.
Right.
Where he is lying or doesn't remember, what he told the special counsel or who even initiated the conversation. And that was the major point to gather sympathy from his base.
Yep.
And it blew up in his face.
It did.
866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. So to encapsulate everything that we were talking about, I look right now at what's going on where Trump is sort of in the background. I mean, there's the stuff of the trials, but the trials, everything, you look at the Fonnie Willis thing, she's got to go before the judge, today. That's going to be interesting. So many of these things are falling apart or so weak, and everybody knows that it's weak.
Yeah.
And so you just, you look at the, all the trials, and they're all messed up in some way.
Yeah, they're all weak.
They're all messed up. But with Biden, it's something every day coming. And now, you had Bob Ulinsky, then you had the special counsel's report, then you have the gaslighting going on. And I mentioned Bob Ulinsky. And then you've got all these interviews coming up, and then they want her to testify,
right.
Coming up here very soon. It's like it's a never-ending thing on Biden.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Happy Thursday.
Coming up in just a little bit, our luxury yacht tax update.
Oh, great.
That goes back to
now,
93? Was that 93, 94?
Do I have to pay it on all of my yachts, or do I just pay one for the entire group? The entire fleet of yachts that I own?
No, only if you're the manufacturer. It was right. It was a manufacturer's tax.
Oh, is that why they're gouging me for my yachts? The yacht companies?
Exactly. They
were gouging
you're being
me.
Gouged. But, we were just talking about it seems that every single day, just looking at the the political landscape right now. You know, with how many months we got now? 8? 8.5?
About 8.5, a little over 8.5 months from Election Day, yeah.
And we talked about the fact that Trump really seems to be in the background, and you can't bring him in much because unless he says something like he did last week, where the media pays attention to it, both parties do. I mean, everybody did, his supporters, whatever, on that one. But it disappears. But Biden, every day, there's just something else. And, you know, we've talked about what hit yesterday, and that was the major one was the fact that hit yesterday, even though we knew about it last week and reported it last week. And the media, some reason, took 5 days to all of a sudden go, oh, by the way, all of our sources say that the special counsel didn't bring up Hunter Biden's son. Joe Biden did. And that's huge because that was the biggest part where he was attempting to elicit sympathy from his supporters. Yeah. How dare the special counsel bring up his dead son? How dare they're cold and callous? This is a Republican mean operative. Definitely has to be MAGA, 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 MAGA Trump.
Yeah.
No, and as Biden's trying to convince America that I have all my cognitive abilities, well, he left them with the impression, he's either lying or he can't remember major things in his life. And that's a sign of cognitive problems. But that's just one of them. And we talked about everything else, the Fonnie Willis thing. And there's always like a lead story. Then there's a bunch of sub-stories out there that all relate. The whole Fonnie Willis going before a judge today in Georgia. Then this story came out. 3 separate prosecutors reportedly met with White House aides before indicting former President Donald Trump. The reported meeting suggested a coordinated attack against Biden's 2024 rival. If coordination occurred, it lends credence to Trump's belief that the indictments are election interference.
Wow.
The timing of the indictments are peculiar. After Trump announced a re-election bid against Biden, 4 indictments hit Trump from 4 separate jurisdictions, each following revelations about the Biden family business. In the 3 cases, prosecutors reportedly met with Biden administration before indicting Trump, and they were Alvin Bragg, New York, the Stormy Daniels case, Jack Smith, Miami, the documents case, and Fonnie Willis, the Georgia case. And that goes through, all the different specifics of it. The first indictment occurred in April of last year, the same day that former Biden aide Kathy Chung testified about Joe Biden's mishandling of classified documents, contradicting Biden's version of events. On March 17th of last year, Bragg asked for a meeting with federal law enforcement ahead of the Trump indictment, a court source told Fox News. A year earlier, Bragg's office hired a former senior Department of Justice official who spent years targeting Trump at the Justice Department. He also attacked Trump in his role in the New York Attorney General's office. Bragg has been very discredited by the indictment because people that read it, even Democrats, they're saying this is not an indictment. Trump exclusively told Breitbart News after that indictment. Some are saying that this is unconstitutional because there's no crime. He's been absolutely discredited. It's a sham. They're willing to destroy our country, and that's, some of the things that Trump said. And then they go through the documents case, and talking about these prosecutors meeting with people from the White House, before the indictments came down.
Right.
And so you're laying all this out. They're getting bombarded every single day. And I know, again, it's a different medium in a way, but the whole thing of, it became a major news item yesterday. Joe Rogan, who's not viewed as a conservative. He may be to the left because the left is so crazy, but he's a lifelong liberal. A couple of years ago, he supported Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And thought the world was flat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but there is,
and he's just like, this gaslighting.
You can't ignore any of this anymore. All of this right now is in your face, and it's so obvious. Of course they're trying to influence the election with all the indictments against Trump. Anyone with that cared to pay attention knows that. You're seeing it.
As here, I'm reading this from Fox, from Rogan. There's enough gaslighting out there where now you can say wild manure. Mm-hmm. He used a different word. Mm-hmm. Absolutely wild manure, mm-hmm. Rogan said in an interview on Tuesday, recalling California Governor Gavin Newsom's enthusiastically defending Biden in the recent interview. And we talked about that. Yeah. We said, my God. That's
the rapid fire one after the other, talking real fast and couldn't get a word in edgewise kind of defending of Biden. And it was like, man, who are you trying to convince?
Rogan spoke in disbelief about how brazenly President Biden is defended by media and politicians, even as he forgets what he's talking about, and nobody on the left wishes to address it. This is all from Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. Everyone's so terrified of Trump being president, they're like, blah, 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 I don't hear anything, I don't see anything. Mm-hmm. They can't say anything. It's nuts. He said there's too many people out there that can see the gaslighting. The podcaster said their mentality is like, you're gaslighting me about something that is so in my face. How can I trust you about what's going on in Ukraine? How can I trust you about Yemen and Syria? How can I trust you about Gaza? How can I trust you about the Nord Stream pipeline? How can I trust you if you won't tell me that you think something's up right here? This is the thing that's right in front of my face. What we explain it in different ways. There's a difference in lying to people when everything is sort of a hypothetical.
Yeah, right.
Or it's something inside Washington. Mm. It's a different thing, and that's where the term gaslighting came from.
Right.
To tell people that what is obviously self-evident to them does not exist, and then attempt to insult or embarrass or shame them into parroting your lie.
Yeah.
That's what gaslighting actually is.
Exactly.
And that's what they're doing. And every single Democrat knows it. This is something that I've never seen in my 40 years of covering politics. I've never seen anything like this. This is why it's so strange every day. I get up every day, I'm like, my God, wow, where does this go? Where does this go? Where does this go?
Well, because it's something so obvious and so indefensible, but they still try and defend it. And there's no way around it. I've been saying since the report came out last week from the special prosecutor that you now have, the left now has something in their hands they can look at and they can go, okay, we can all now have this discussion that we weren't having before. We were saying it's his age, but it's not his age, and we all know that. It's about the fact that there are real cognitive issues, and these aren't gaffes. And there's something wrong here. And the things that are going on, it doesn't matter whether you like Trump or don't like Trump. You look at the situation and all those cases against Trump, and this is stupid. We're going to take all of your businesses and your ability to do. It's like some weird superhero cartoon. We're going to take all of your power.
Well, but in a authoritarian metropolis.
In a very real scenario.
Right.
And that's the problem is that...
Yeah, but remember, Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane are part of the mainstream media.
Yeah, but they couldn't tell that Clark was Superman and all he had on was glasses.
Well, I think they
weren't too smart.
They were truly gaslighting, were they not?
Oh, wish Superman were here. Clark, have you seen Superman? Sure could help me open this jar. The lid's pretty tight there, Clark. Gee, wish we had Superman. They start making fun of Superman. You know, he wears leotards, Clark. Did you see that? He's wearing leotards. Get him angry. But those, but this is, and it really is out of some, like a children's book, but this is the delusional mindset. Bragg. He's the same guy that was floating the idea that if you use a gun in the commission of a robbery and don't pull the trigger, then we won't charge you with a felony.
Oh, did you see the story about Bragg's going after Taylor Swift's stalker? And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why are you going after Taylor Swift's stalker? Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of other things you're not going after. You chose this one because what? It's high profile,
right?
And so I mean that was a story. But see stories like that come because doesn't that help affect? Okay, you really have selective prosecutions and you're making up crimes as you're going along, and you'll prosecute some people and not other people, and therefore you're viewed as corrupt at that point.
Right.
So even that adds, to it. And when we had yesterday, when the whole Russian nuclear, thing that came out, then the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner yesterday first warned of a serious national security threat and called for President Biden to declassify it. Two things I thought was, well, wait a minute. Okay, you were supporting. He's a Republican, but you were supporting Ukraine. Sorry, I don't trust anybody now. And all of a sudden, we're being told that that the serious national security threat, and it's like, okay, this has to do with Russia, and that immediately came out. Sources saying it has to do with Russia, whatever. Right. And it's like, okay, are they just trying to get money for Ukraine? Are they trying to set a sense of panic?
And make it look bipartisan, kind of, that.
And the second thing was, oh my God, that was the one thought, and the other thought is, oh my God, you're telling me is there an imminent threat, and the Republicans are saying Biden's ignoring it,
right?
Which to me probably is the most serious threat because he doesn't have the cognitive abilities, I believe, to handle a true emergency or something that could be close to an act of war or an act of war. I don't have any confidence that it will handle it. That was the second thought that went through my mind. And if it went through my mind, it went through more than half of America's minds and half the voters' minds.
It really accelerated.
My God.
It accelerated everything that's in the report, that we're talking about from last week's report. And even if you want to throw in that theory that the deep state is pushing all of this, this is some kind of conspiracy, basically to float everything to the surface. And then this would be part of the play is to, spook people and say, hey, Russia might be doing this, and he's still in charge. If there's this push to basically, force him or convince him or whatever, get him out of office. Look, the thing with Turner is I'm with you. It's like, can't trust you. If you're working with the White House on the whole thing with Ukraine, number one, but also there's a lot about the GOP right now that I don't trust. I don't know what your motive is. I don't know if it's accurate or not, if you're overplaying it or not. And then you want to bring in, then the story brings in Jake Sullivan. And then I'm thinking,
I know. I saw the same thing. I had
one of the key players in the whole Russian hoax thing. And we're talking about Russia and a threat from Russia. And there's supposed to be this Gang of Eight meeting. Jake Sullivan talked about it yesterday. The Gang of Eight is going to be, he's going to sit down with them later today, he said. And so. And
you can't trust a word he says.
Can't trust anything from him. I can't trust Biden if I believed he were of sound mind to make the right decision on Russia. I can't. I don't think he's capable of governing, even if there is no cognitive issue whatsoever. But I believe there's a cognitive issue, and he's also not capable of governing. This is a fire that keeps getting massive amounts of fuel put on it, and you can't let it burn. Something has to be done.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, the left and economics.
No.
Or as I'm calling it, our luxury yacht tax update. Just going, and it's got nothing to do with the luxury tax. This is something in the early 90s that Bill Clinton, and the Democrats came up with to tax luxury yachts. And they had to reverse that thing within months because it killed the U.S. yacht industry. And it was like, duh, you were told, you think you can change, you can manipulate the economy, but you can't change economics.
No.
Cannot change how people respond to incentive. And they just never get it. They believe they can change economics. And there's another case, and this is the minimum pay ordinance for delivery drivers in Seattle, that it was meant to help them.
Right.
And, of course, it has the complete opposite effect.
Right. Now, they're sitting around instead of delivering, and we'll talk more about that, but this is exactly what happens when you try and force the value of something in the marketplace, when the government tries to force it.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you choose, if you can't listen live overnight, on one of our great radio station affiliates.
Thank you.
The Seattle City Council's recently implemented minimum payment ordinance for app-based workers, like those who work handling deliveries through apps such as DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Instacart, is hurting the workers it intended to help.
Shocking.
In 2022, the Seattle City Council enacted a first-of-its-kind ordinance that aimed to help ensure that app-based delivery drivers earn a minimum wage plus tips and compensation for expenses. The law took effect last month and effectively requires companies to pay the greater of the minimum per minute amount of 44 cents and a minimum per mile amount of 74 cents, or a minimum per offer amount of $5. In practice, this has prompted companies like DoorDash and Instacart, to pay their independent contract delivery drivers $26 or more per hour to comply with the regulation and to cover their costs. That amount is well above the city of Seattle's regular minimum wage of $19.97 per hour, and has forced those companies to pass those costs onto the consumers placing orders.
Right.
They talked to one guy who owns a delivery service, lives in Seattle, and has made deliveries through Uber since 2016, told Fox Business that the delivery business has fallen off dramatically since the first week of the ordinance's implementation as consumers balk at higher prices for orders. The Seattle City Council's new minimum payment law took place last month. My experience in downtown Seattle, which is booming with Amazon and other tech workers, wait times are half the day, he said in an interview. There's reduced orders for drivers and couriers. There's definitely been reduced business for restaurants. All of them, you can see there's just less bags on the delivery trays, the racks. Talks about different restaurants. Used to have bags upon bags. That's gone down. He said one restaurant told him that they had averaged 174 orders per day through gig companies before the ordinance, and that last Thursday at 6 p.m., they only had 16 orders placed that day. He added that between Seattle's high cost of living and expensive gas prices, a dwindling income from making scarce deliveries isn't enough to live off of, which may force some drivers and couriers out of the business entirely. Uber Eats says it's seen a steady decline in demand for deliveries in the wake of the ordinance taking effect.
Yeah, and when inflation started to hit, the delivery companies have also seen, especially restaurant delivery companies, DoorDash, Uber Eats, have seen a decline, but this one is clearly directly correlated with what's going on there locally in Seattle, this level of decline. And that's going to happen. It really is about that threshold. How much are you willing to pay for somebody else to go pick up your order and bring it to your door?
The president and CEO of the Washington Food Industry Association told Fox Business that independent grocery stores have also noticed a decline in delivery orders, many of which are placed by elderly residents or working families.
Yeah.
I have stores reporting about a 10% reduction in delivery. I mean, we're struggling. We have a 1% to 2% profit margin, and just the cost of goods have gone up so much to get them to the store. So we're challenged with that, and then trying to get those goods to the people and those families that need it. Delivery apps for gig workers said that they warned the Seattle City Council, which has had nearly its entire composition turnover since the ordinance was first enacted, about the law's impact, and noted the financial impact it's had on delivery workers, consumers, restaurants, and grocers. Uber told Fox Business in a statement, the new law has only been in effect for 4 weeks, and we are tracking a steady decline in demand from customers, resulting in couriers spending on average 30% more time waiting for delivery work than before the ordinance went into effect. Like I said, you can change and you can manipulate an economy, but you can't change economics.
No, you can't. This is the marketplace basically saying, no, we're not going to afford that. I don't know what the average cost increase, per order would be when you talk about them having to pay essentially $26 an hour to these workers to accommodate this law, this new law locally. Well, but it's going to be expensive, and it's already expensive. This is on top of the inflation that's already hit. Now this is more local inflation as a direct result of that local policy. And it's not going to change. What are you going to do?
Takes you back to that pizza story from a couple of years ago.
I was thinking about that just now. That owner of the pizza store. Well, I'm going to pay my workers. What was he paying?
He was going to pay them whatever it was. I'm going to pay them a living wage, so he set a particular wage.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the media actually followed what happened to this pizzeria, who then the first thing they did once they raised it and said it's the right thing to do and we can afford to do it. Well, they couldn't afford to do it. They had to, I think, stop what? They had to cut hours.
Yeah.
And then eventually he went out of business because of it. And we said, and he still said, well, I still did the right thing.
No, you didn't.
How?
Now they have nothing. Now they have zero. And now look, I don't know what the answer is for Uber, for DoorDash, for any of them in terms of fixing the business model, because quite frankly, in the wake of inflation, even when you go get it yourself or go to a restaurant and sit down, it's a lot more expensive to eat out, even fast food. Now you're going to add to that the cost, because they increase the menu cost on those apps, and then they increase, of course, delivery fee unless you're paying the fee of whatever it is, $10 a month, and then everything else that you're paying. Next thing you know, you've got what would be maybe a $13, $14 order is $20, $21. Well, percentage-wise, that's a massive chunk. And so now you're going to add to it the local cost. Oh, but we want them to make a living. They're out of work. They get a lot fewer jobs. I don't know what you do to fix those business models because, quite frankly, it might end up going away. I don't know.
Yeah,
because how do you make it efficient? Amazon is still working on, creating the efficiency, that you had to create to compete with Walmart, but also to compete with FedEx, right? And
UPS.
You create and UPS, and now they tower over UPS and FedEx. And they're, but what are we seeing? Well, your Amazon the Prime fee is going up. That's not all about the viewing of movies. That's about delivering
shipping
stuff.
Yeah.
And that proprietary supply chain, basically, that they have in play is a lot like what Sam Walton set up for Walmart back in the day, the whole idea of it. You control that, you control the cost, you can be competitive. Well, there's only so much you can control when it comes to inflation. It's got to be passed on, and I don't know where that's going to be. And as a consuming public, we got pretty spoiled. Well, we like it delivered to our door. I don't want to have to put shoes on. That's hard.
Yeah, you've been trying to get the service that brings it to your recliner.
I want the pizza guy all the way to, and grab some plates on the way to my seat. Would you? Well, could you do that? But I like to tip well, and it's not just because I'm a nice guy. There's self-interest involved because I'd like to see those services continue, because when I need them, then I want them to work. And so I try and tip well. But and the same if I'm going to a restaurant and sitting down. If I'm paying for that, then I'm going to pay for it, and I'm not going to be cheap about it. But that's not the case for a lot of people right now. When you got to make a decision on car payment or keep the lights on, when you got to make a decision of, hey, should I move in with someone because I can't afford the rent anymore? There are a lot of, it's a struggle, and American families are underwater. So those kind of luxuries of getting things delivered to your door,
there's also,
it may go away. I don't know.
There's also a cultural perspective where, if you remember what before Amazon came along, what shipping costs actually were.
Yeah.
They were high.
Oh, they were.
And
it was a long time before you got something at your door. I mean, relatively.
So when I first went with Amazon, I think it was $79. Then it went to $99. I'm not even sure what it is now.
Yeah,
129.
129, 149, 179. I don't know.
Yeah, and
I don't know
but
where it is.
whatever it, because I order so much, if it's, you break it down over a period, let's say you went from 79 and now it's 149, which is doubled over 10 years, which you should be outraged by. Well, if you're in your 20s, you might be outraged by it, but if you knew what shipping costs were before Amazon came along,
right,
and they go from 79 to 149, and you break it down in okay, let me see, okay, it's doubled, but let me see, 149 broken down, to a month. How many things do I order? Well, good God, there's nothing for shipping for the number of things that I order compared to what shipping used to cost before Amazon came along and changed the entire way of delivering, goods to people's homes.
Right.
And now, but the question is, and when we look at the ride-sharing services and, app businesses out there, you and I have questioned, because we remember how undependable they were for me, how undependable and expensive taxis were.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And, then you look at, and when Uber came along, I was shocked. And I went, what's the business model? This can't work. And we were right. You saw they had to, raise the rates and do our, and the drivers are still, complaining. But also it's a very sensitive point for these ride-sharing services, because you're just not demanding my time. You're demanding my property. We talked about this yesterday. You're demanding I use my vehicle.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That takes it up to another level, and the pay scale compared to, or the charging compared to what taxis used to be. Remember, whatever it was, they would charge you certain amount a quarter mile.
Oh, watching that meter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's watching them.
Drive me crazy.
Yes. But there was something where here's the price and here's what it's going to be, and you pay for it you can pay for everything on your credit card.
Yeah. Let me out here. We're still in front of your house.
Yes.
The meter's already started. You can let me out here.
And then you hit a traffic jam, and that thing, it's still going.
Yeah.
It's like,
and then you tell the driver, hey, bypass this and go this way. It's like, no, this should be fine. No. Take the bypass.
Has anybody ever said follow that Uber?
Yeah. Like they did in movies.
Yeah.
Follow that taxi. Yeah. No, maybe.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But it's just a perfect example of, again, and we can call it Keynesian city council economics. But when you believe, all right, government regulation is what will solve, or will have people change, or if we decide to get involved in it, we can change economics.
Yeah.
And you can't. And so the city councils, hopefully they're learning now. They said almost everybody has been replaced from the one who put this in for the app drivers. But the fact is, if you do something that increases the cost of doing business, you're going to do less business.
Yep.
And that means there will be fewer workers.
Yep.
And for some reason, the left can never get that through their head.
Nope. And they think they're being heroes. And quite frankly, you're just basically destroying a business model that may have already been in trouble, but you're putting the nail in the coffin.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.